Welcome back on the Good Morning Artesia radio show, and joining us is State Representative Jim Townsend. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Gene. How are you this morning?
Hey, we are hanging in there. I've got football schedules. I've got turquoise-colored charts. I mean, we're having fun today, and I take it you're in Santa Fe. That's where you've been spending your time the last few weeks?
That's where I'm at this morning and sitting in Santa Fe.
What has been the my understanding was most of the Republicans are actually there in Santa Fe. As you kind of look around the room, what percentage of the legislators would you believe are actually there in Santa Fe meeting and doing the work versus those that are on the video conferencing?
On a daily basis, at least 80% of the Republicans are in the chambers, and sometimes, most of the time, there's only two Democrats. Majority Leader Stapleton and their parliamentarian Damon Eli will be in the chambers, and other than the Speaker. And in physical presence, we have them outnumbered.
But not in votes.
But not in votes, yeah.
Yeah. What's that been like, trying to carry on a conversation or debate a point in a bill with the people that you're trying to have this conversation with not really there?
It's horrible. The speaker's made a big deal out of it because he said, 2,000 people have joined in on the meeting. And the problem is, for the most part, it's the same people. They have limited public input in almost every committee to 1 minute and for a maximum of 30 minutes. So about 25 people for and against anything can talk. But as you well know, probably much better than I do, because that's what you do for a living, when you can see someone and you can feel the tenor, the temperature of the room, you can kind of get a better grasp on the way people are leaning. This is like everybody being in a closet in the dark. I mean, it's not very good. And, but the thing that has been very remarkable is that the staff, and there's about, I'd say 100 people, give or take, that come into the Capitol every day, support staff. And every one of them are required to be tested every other week. And I think we're down to, we've had like 3 or 4 cases. And just think about that. You got a lot of people going to Albuquerque every night, some to Santa Fe. You have legislators that are going home all over the state. You have other Democrats that'll come in to present a bill. And we're not seeing an issue. And, I was kidding the speaker the other night because one of the members had her mask down too far, or wasn't wearing it properly or something. And I said, Mr. Speaker, this is such a joke, because at 5 o'clock, we're kind of like the coyote and the sheepdog around here. At 5 o'clock, we leave here. We go arm in arm down to the bull ring. We have dinner together. We hug each other's wife. We're glad to see each other. And we sit down there and we enjoy each other for 90 minutes at a dinner table. And then we come up here and we mask up and we act like we're going into a contaminated zone or something. So it's been really strange.
Well, I'm glad you get to go out and support some of the local businesses. I'm surprised, though, you haven't had any of the Wagyu beef meetings like the governor's staff has had up at the governor's house on that, which kind of was a little bit of an embarrassment. I don't know if it was. Did they look at it as an embarrassment? Because I think you pointed out some of the hypocrisy of like what you just described going on between our leadership and what their public image is that they want to portray, and then what's really going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, it is hypocrisy at its finest sometimes around here.
Yeah. Well, now yesterday the budget passed the House.
It did.
House Bill 4? I think is the budget bill. What
House
are your
Bill 2?
2?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 2. What are your thoughts on that? I'm sure there's some crazy things in there, but are there some good things that came out of that? And was there any kind of an effort made? I know there was an effort made, but was there any success at trying to kind of hold the line on spending a little bit, given the fact that we're in this economically challenged time?
I thought that Chairman Lundstrom, Patty Lundstrom, who chairs that committee, did a much better job this year. 4 years ago, we had $1.2 billion surplus, and that budget was like 13% increase. So we blew through money very quickly. The next year, it was like 8.6 or 7%, still much higher. Because if you look at New Mexico historically, about 3.5% to 4% is a number that you can expect the economy to support a budget. So this one was 4.7% over 2021, which I thought was more responsible. There's still problems in it, and I tried to point some of those out. We had a 5.8% increase in education with kids not in school. I think that causes a little problem. We had a 50% increase in the Secretary of State's office budget, primarily because of Senator Daniel Ivey Soto's, I think it was SB 4. A few years ago, the elections cleanup bill, HB 4, I think it was. But there's still some issues, but it was done much better. I commended her on the House floor because I have been pushing for the last several years. Had thrown a couple of temper tantrums on the House floor about meetings being in the back room, not being archived, by a select few. And this year, I was very happy that all of those meetings were public meetings. They were being archived, and people could see the decisions that were being made. So after throwing rocks at her for the last several years, I did take the opportunity to tell her how much I appreciated us coming out of the dark and doing it right. And I really do, because I think it's a step forward for the legislature.
So that goes to the Senate. Do you see any issues in the Senate, or should that get through the Senate?
I think it'll get through the Senate. I'm sure they'll have an adjustment or two, and it'll come back to concurrence. But it had been worked over pretty good. I doubt there'll be any major overhauls.
On the revenue side, what the oil and gas situation's been so weird to look at, because you have the federal moratorium on the new leases. We have clearly a green-leaning administration, and some of the other pieces of legislation that are floating around up there and how they will impact oil and gas. But right now, it seems like with oil up around $60 a barrel, it's pretty active in the state. This is probably helping the budget situation as far as revenue projections are concerned.
Oh, yeah. I mean, without oil and gas, the state is in one mell of a hess. So I would tell you that Patty's budget, the state budget numbers were set on oil prices of $47, which is conservative. Seeing, high 50s, low 60 kind of numbers today. So I think the appropriations committees did a pretty good job of putting a budget together, and I wish reserves had been a little higher. Reserves were at 23.8%. I always feel better when that number's up around 25 or 30, especially when we have economic times like we do. You mentioned about a green administration in D.C., but that green administration is alive and well in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And we have seen the abortion, the frack ban bill go through for Senator Cedillo Lopez. We have seen a number of bills that I think are going to be, there's a Climate Solutions Act, HB 9, and it would give anybody in the state standing to sue any permit holder for a violation of any kind. And so these environmental groups are just, they're frothing at the bit to get this thing passed so they can take on any facility. Just think the refinery in Artesia, for example, and there's other ones. It's the one we drive by every day.
Right.
Those guys have hundreds of employees, very complex operating permits. You could have a flaring routine, a change in incoming crude supply, an upset in any unit, and that's going to allow somebody, even for a temporary upset, somebody outside can try to take standing and file a lawsuit against them. So
we need to take a break for the news.
Sure.
I understand you can stick around for one more segment, so I appreciate you doing that. Representative Jim Townsend is with us. Let's break for the townhall.com news, and we'll be back and talk about specific legislation in the next segment.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall.